Today we're at the Royer farm in Irisburg, and we are doing some work as part of a national CIG grant, which UVM Extension was awarded to investigate how to better implement interseeding on fields in winter climates. And the reason we want to do this is many years we can't get fall cover crops established in a timely manner, which results in fall cover going into winter, which doesn't produce erosion, and then the spring and creates problems for people that do conventional tillage. So this is a alternative to that. We are attempting to establish the cover crops in the summer, and then they will kind of sit there and stagnate once the rows canopy over, and then after the harvest they'll grow and they'll have a huge head start over what's fall seeded. So today, for this project this year, we're using two different mixes. One has winter rye in it, annual rye, also has a medium red clover and a Daikon radish, and we would apply that at 50 pounds to the acre through an interseeder. And the second mix that we're using is a annual rye, medium red clover, vetch, and Daikon radish mix, and that one we're seeding at 25 pounds to the acre. And the different mixes are we're trying. Last year we did this project and we didn't have a good early spring cover. The clover came in later in the spring, but what we're trying to do, we're using vetch and winter rye. Those are changes to the mix this year, two mixes, to try to get better late fall, early spring cover. And so those are changes that we made. Important parts of the project, or for any consideration of interseeding, number one is the herbicide program that you're implementing on your fields. We aren't using any long-term residual for this project. So we have trial fields and control fields. All the trial fields are sprayed only with Roundup, glyphosate, and Resolve Q. I'm not sure what the active ingredient is. I don't remember in that product. And we are having to do some resprays. This field here will be resprayed. When you go to interseed, you don't want any weeds in the field at the time of seeding. So if you see weeds peeking in, our recommendation is to respray or spray. Some people just wait and spray once right before interseeding, which is fine as long as you're going to be interseeding shortly thereafter. These fields got sprayed real early, right after planting, and the herbicide is broken down and the weeds are coming back through, so they're going to hit it again. I'm interseeding it actually before it's being sprayed, but I've talked to them on the phone today. They're coming tomorrow, and the seed's not going to germinate before that, so we don't expect to see any problems. And there's no residual in the second spraying. It's just a glyphosate, kill what's green, move on type deal. So number one is herbicide program. Number two is tractor setup. You got to be able to fit in whatever row spacing you're planting. So for this setup, we need 30-inch tractor that'll fit on 30-inch rows. And then the equipment, which people build homemade interseeders. There's all different kinds of ways to do it. We do it a couple different ways, and I'll talk a little bit about this interseeder in a minute. But then you just got to, and then you got to get your seed mix. So a lot of planning has to happen. You have to order your seed or get your seed lined up ahead of time. You got to get your spray program lined up ahead of time. You got to get the equipment lined up ahead of time, and then you should seed interseed right around top dress. Ideally, they would actually top dress, and then you would interseed and mix that fertilizer into the soil to reduce volatilization. Because of the scope of this project, we're doing approximately 1,000 acres, trying to coordinate fertilizer application with herbicide it's too much. We did it on a couple farms where it was convenient, but the number of acres that we're covering, we kind of have to keep going, and so we can't really wait for the stars to align for everything to be perfect. So that's a little bit about this project. We're doing a bunch of other work. We do PSNT tests. We do soil health tests on all the trial and the control fields. We're scouting for weeds a couple times during the summer. So after the interseeding's done, we'll come and check establishment around the 4th of July. So that'll be in 3-4 weeks, or 2 to 4 weeks. And then we'll also do weed checks. We've already taken soil health tests off of these this spring. We'll do it again in the fall. And we've also done bulk density testing for how much carbon is being sequestered in the soil. It's something new that we're looking at this year. So there's a bunch of stuff going on. It's a very large project. We paid for this project. We helped the farmers with the cost of the seed, the corn seed, the herbicide, and we're also paying a stipend for their trouble. They are putting some corn at risk. We are planting at a lower population than they would normally plant at. And for this project, we actually have skips in the rows, trying to get more sunlight down for the cover crop to establish. And so we are compensating the farmers for that risk. When the project was designed, corn was $3.50 a bushel. Now it's $7 a bushel. So we're trying not to damage their corn very much. It's a very valuable commodity in 2021. So that's a little bit about our project. I can talk a little bit about the interseeder. This interseeder comes from a company in Pennsylvania, BZ Zimmerman Manufacturing. Jim Hershey is the fella's name, and down in Lancaster County. They built the toolbar, and then the row units came from Fenning Equipment out in Ohio. They're more or less a prototype, as far as I can tell. We've had quite a few problems with them, just not really built rugged enough for Vermont soils. Ohio soils, I'm guessing, are less stony and less hilly, and so we've been on the phone with them working through some design issues with that. But overall, we're hoping that it works well. The advantage of this system is the seed goes on in front, and then there's a set of roller cutters that stir up the soil, and then there's a roller in the back which is supposed to pack that down and get good soil to seed contact. That's in theory. With the highly variable soils that we have here in Vermont, it doesn't work quite as well as I had hoped. But I have hope that we can work through it, and in another year tune it. I know what needs to be done, just don't have time to do it, given that the corn's growing every day, and we have to get the interseeding done. So the seed is in a Valmar air seeder box, and that's all hydraulic drive, controlled from the cab. So there's a GPS that tells the computer how fast you're going, and then you calibrate the seed, and you can increase or decrease rates from within the cab. And the tractor's also equipped with auto steer. Don't use it very often on fields in northern Vermont. There's too many curves and too many slopes, but there's occasions where you can use it, and the tractor will hold the line, the transect line, well enough to stay off the corn. But generally we're freehanding all of it. So that's a little bit about the interseeder. UVM has 3 interseeders now, 2 that are 3-point hitch like this, and then it has Interseeder Technologies interseeder, which is 2-point hitch with wheels in the back. So the Interseeder Technologies interseeder has 3 rows of cover crop between every 2 rows of corn. The Dawn dual seeder has 2 rows of cover crop between 2 rows of corn, and then this interseeder, the Fenning equipment interseeder, it sprays the seed out in front, so there's no rows, and we're hoping that it comes up even between the rows. That's the goal of that. So we'll see how it goes. To date, we're about 850 acres in, and the corn is growing. So where I started, it's now shaded out. So we'll be going back and seeing how it established. So that's a little bit about the project.
Are there opportunities to use the interseeders from UVM if folks want to?
Yes. Yep. The UVM interseeders are available. We do loan them, rent them, request a donation for their use just to cover the repair costs associated with operating them. I think it's like $12 an acre or something. And if we can find a grant to cover that, then we typically do that. And if we can't, we just request a donation. So they are available. There's people using them this week. Some farms in Addison County will be using one of them, and I will be using the other one, and the third one. The third one is 15, 16 foot wide, the Interseeder Technologies one, and it's a little bit cumbersome to move over the road. One of the great things about this toolbar is that this flops down and the wheels go down, and you can pull it behind a pickup truck. So we can get it to the farm really easy and then hook it on to a tractor at the farm. The Interseeder Technologies one, we have to use a tractor on because of how the hitch is designed. So going long distances is not really feasible for many people.
And the corn variety that you use, is it different than you would normally
so,
plant?
Yes, good. Thanks for asking that. I forgot. So what we've done as part of this project, knowing that we're cutting back on the population, is we have in the trials acres, we're using indeterminate ear, if you will, a flex ear. So the theory is, as the lower the population, the less competition, the bigger the ear will get. And if we get half the weight of the corn stalk is in the ear, so if we can grow a bigger ear, we can mitigate some of the yield loss and improve quality. In 2020, our analysis showed that we were about a ton and a half less corn on the trial acres than we were in the control acres at the end of the day. Some farms some farms the trials were better than the control. Some farms it was all over the board, but across the 30 farms, we averaged about 1.5 tons less corn doing it this way than however the farmer was doing it otherwise. And in general, we were about 2,000 plants per acre less in the trial acres than we were in the control acres, which would correspond roughly to a 1.5 ton to 2 ton yield drag. So we're hoping that we have better results this year with regard to that. Every year is different. As part of this project, we put weather stations on all 30 farms, and the thing that we found is that rainfall is much more variable than you would think. Farms that are 2 miles apart, very different rainfall totals. So the variability in the weather in Vermont is a driving force in how our results for cropping will be. So yeah, so all the trial acres have flexier varieties.
And the cover crops in the spring, is that harvestable forage, or is that just acting as spring cover?
It's just spring cover. It's not seeded at a rate high enough to justify harvesting. We had some really nice clover crops in mid-May. They could have been harvested. They didn't. We sprayed them out, and so one of the challenges is the second year with a good cover crop the first year and using no-till. There's a lot of material the second year to plant into. So we did get good emergence, but what I'm wondering about is how well interseeding into heavy residual cover crop, how well that's going to take, and we won't know that for another few weeks. But everything has trade-offs, and we're still figuring it out after we've been working on this stuff I've been working on it for 10 years. So we do see a lot. It is a viable practice for sure, but it takes more management. And also interseeding happens at a busy time of year between first and second cut of hay and top dressing and everything else. So it's another thing that we'd have to fit into our schedules. But it's good.
And the yield loss from corn, you're thinking that the soil health benefits of the cover crop could make up for that, or what? How do you sort of balance that yield loss?
So as far as the yield loss, it could be due to a lot of different things, and I'm just saying that it may be due to the population drop. I think that we'll know more after this year, and we'll be checking it again. I think that if all you lost was 1.5 tons of corn per acre and you got your cover crop on, I think that may be a reasonable trade-off. It's not so a 30-acre field would be 3 loads. So I mean, that's for the farmer. I think for the farmer to decide whether or not that's worth it or not, but it's not a 5-ton yield loss,
right,
and it's not 10-ton yield loss. It's a negligible. We averaged through the whole project, I think we averaged somewhere around 17-ton corn.
Yeah.
So I think that was on the trial side. I don't know the number. I haven't looked at the numbers in a while, but somewhere around 17 ton, maybe a little higher than that. So 1.5 tons off of that. A lot of farmers, a lot of years would be happy with 17-ton corn. So it wasn't 2-ton corn or 12-ton corn.
Right.
Where we had the biggest problems, and what I would caution producers is second year no-till out of sod. You've got to really watch for weed pressure. They come in a lot, and they'll not only snuff out your cover crop, they'll snuff out your corn crop. So you have to be pretty aggressive in that no-till system in sod the second year. We didn't do any no-till interseeding that I can think of into no-till sod, but we did where people plowed sod down, we interseeded, and the weeds came terrible. So that was first year, and then also second year. They no-tilled it, and it was horrible. And that dragged down the whole project. Like, that was 8-9 ton corn, and on 2 different farms, and that brought our average down. If we took those farms out, we would have been up over 18 ton, I think. So, and for northern Vermont, it wasn't all river bottom fields either. It was fields like this, Vermont soils. So fertility wise, we're following PSNT test. We're offering those to the farmers. Last year and this year, the PSNT tests are mostly reading 0. We haven't had enough rain to leach the nitrogen out from the manure and the starter. So I don't know exactly how much fertilizer folks are putting on this week. I think they're putting on some, but they're definitely cutting back over a normal year. So and this corn had pop-up not nitrogen, and it looks decent. We did some no-till the next field over, and it's time to be top dress, but it'll be fine. So
can you say your name and the date again, because I hadn't started the video?
Is it the 22nd or 23rd?
23rd, I think.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. And again, my name is Jeff Sanders. I work for UVM Extension, the Northwest Crop Soils team out of St. Albans. We work with farmers all over Vermont, and me in particular all over northern Vermont. And today is June 23rd, and we're interseeding.